Alright guys, what's going on? Uh, this is a tutorial that a lot of people are making, and I decided that, well, hey, might as well do it. So anyways, this tutorial is going to be on camera tracking. Now, you might be wondering what camera tracking is, but it's basically just getting a camera to move, like a camera in a real video like this. So this is the video I'm going to be using for this little tutorial. I set up some trackers here, and basically what we're going to do is we're going to set a tracker to follow each one of these points, and even some of the other points that are stand out, like right there. That'll stand out. And by doing that, the camera will know where to move and where to rotate. So you'll understand more, and we can use that right there. Okay, so to start, we should probably start up Blender, since that's what we're going to be using. Oops, sorry, hit the microphone there. Okay, so what we're going to do is, there is a new window in Blender, and it is called the Movie Clip Editor. And this was previously not here. You only had the Video Sequence Editor. But this will allow you to camera track. So let's start by opening, and we'll open that which is on the desktop. Now if we play this, you'll see a darker blue area right here, and that just signifies that is in the cache. So if I play this part right now, it's smooth, and once it hits here, it starts getting choppy and is moving the cache with it. So what we can do is we can load up the user preferences, or press Ctrl-Alt-U and go over to System right here, and we go all the way down, and you'll see right here memory cache limit. Now I would recommend for this having, especially if you have a long video that you're trying to track, having the 64-bit Windows Blender, because the cache can go much higher. And if you only have the 32-bit, this is as high as it goes. Around there, I think. Oh no, 1028. And that does not store much at all. 2000 should be good for this tutorial, and this will just let it store much more. So we can exit out of there, and now press Alt-A, and it's going to automatically cache all of that video. We just have to wait for the end. I think that 2000 will be good, since that's what I used for this before. Now the actual video is much longer than this, but this is just 250 frames, and that'll probably be good. We might even just set it to 200 to make this tutorial a little bit shorter. Now, to start, we should probably save this. Press Ctrl-S or Ctrl-Shift-S to save as. And it's being a little slow. Let's just make a folder. Camera. Where is it? There it is. Tutorial 1. And I'll probably get more in depth as the tutorials go on. Maybe I'll make a series even. So let me just start by explaining this. Make this 150 because Blender's being a little slow. And we can probably make the caching down to 1600. And that should be good. Now it just plays right through. No problem at all. Okay. So now what we want to do is, we have a lot of stuff, and this could look very confusing for someone who's just getting started. I know it was when I was. But let's just, we'll start. Okay, well, we'll start here. So if we wanted, say, a cube to track this, say we make a marker in it, we want it to track that, then we would just add an object, and we would make that the cube. I won't be going over that in the tutorial, though. But anyways, that's what that does. It'll follow a marker, if not more. So, you'll see this. This will come up once we add a marker. Display is, see if we want black and white, it'll just turn it black and white. No blue, no green. It takes a lot of stuff out if we don't have blue, green. Names and status, that is for markers. So if we add a marker and press names and status, track keyframed. But we don't want that. I'm just going to give you a little bit. Okay, 3D markers. I haven't experimented with that much. With markers, all you have to do is press scale. Same thing, grab. Rotate doesn't do anything. Scale, and that's pretty much all. 3D markers, I have no idea what that does exactly, but I'm sure I'll find out. Mute footage will just make it blank, so that you can just see the markers. Lock to selection. Can't move it around. Display aspect ratio. We'll change that. So we just want to keep that as 1. This will change the Y, and this will change the... Oh, well, pretty much the same thing. It'll just make it even. I'll go over this in a minute. Tracking settings. Speed. I haven't experimented with this much, but I'm sure that it's important. It can be. These, don't worry about this. And this is just the movie that we'll be using. Okay, now that we're pretty much done with that side, we look at this side, and you're not going to worry about this, or this, or this right now. Right now, all we have to worry about is this and that. So tracking prisons, we don't have to worry about that either. We want to make the tracker a hybrid if it's not there already, and keyframe it'll search. It'll just search the whole video pretty much. Well, not the whole video. It'll search inside of the search area, and it'll just search in that area. It's not as accurate because it doesn't know where to go exactly. If we change it to previous frame, it gets the data from the previous frame and then jumps to the same thing. So, and correlation, if it's lower, it doesn't work as well. Well, actually, if it's lower, the lower it is, the more steady it'll be. But 0.750 should be good for now. And, okay. Now, there are 2 ways of tracking. One is a really bad way that will be improved, probably. And what you do is press detect features. And it's going to try and detect a whole bunch of different features. And it's not going to work very well. If we press track, well, let's save this first, just in case something happens. First of all, it's not following very well at all. You see, this one is definitely all over the place. This is, that's out of the place. We don't want too many that are going to be out of the video. So press, select everything with A and press delete. That is the bad way, or you can press delete track. The good way that you will be doing by yourself is add marker and move or control click. Now we want to press scale to scale it up, grab it right around there. You want it to be the center, so let's go in a little bit and make it the center. That looks about right. Search. I told you we would go over this. Thin markers is just, it'll become striped so you don't see it as much. Path, that won't show the path that it's taking. I'll explain that. Pattern, you won't see it. Search, that is the area where it will be searching, and we don't need it to be that big. Although we do want to make that a little bit bigger. Okay, so now if we press, well, first so tracked first. Now let's just press play. And it'll automatically track all of these by itself. Now, one at a time doesn't work as fast, of course, because you have to go through every single frame. But we will be doing all of these at once. So you'll see that it's doing a fairly clean job. It looks pretty good. It doesn't look like there's too much messed up. Doesn't look very messed up at all, actually. It's following the center pretty much. If you see it's saying in the center, moving around just a tiny bit, maybe a few pixels. And it's almost done. And then the next time we do this, I'm going to actually pause it. And I want to look for a marker that will actually make a mistake. So we can keep that. That's probably good. Okay. Now, what we can do is, let's add a marker and move it. And we want to make this, the pattern size about 30 for normal, and search size about 60. So let's add a marker and move. Okay. Just delete that. Make the search size 100. And that should be good right about there. Now, if I have this tiny little thing, and not a big enough search area, what could happen very easily, well, we're at the end of the clip, so let's just press track backwards. What it's going to do is it's going to lose it. That's all. So actually what I want to do is I want to clear that whole track and just go back to the beginning and grab it and move it right there. And now we can press track. And it lost it. And it didn't do too good of a job. See, well, it didn't do too bad, but when it loses it, what we want to do is we want to go to the end, and we can just make that search size a little bigger. And we go back and press track. And it's going to do it very nicely for us. And it was faster than this one because it was, the search size wasn't as big. See, for this one, it's much bigger, and it doesn't really need to be that big. I was just showing you how to get a good track if you needed to, and it wasn't working very well. So, for now, let's just track, move it there, put one there, control click. I think it works for either control. Let me just make sure. Yep, either control. Just make it in the center, because if it's in the center, it'll track a whole bunch better than if you put it in a, say, like right there. You don't want it there. You want it in the center of what you're going to track. So, just do that. Alright. I think I got all those. No. Right there, and right there. Okay, now we want some more all around the room, not just that one area where the main object will be. And for the main object, you want to have as much tracking as possible around that one area. So also what we can do is we can press control click on this yellow thing and on this red thing, which I put there on purpose, and something like there. I see a little red thing. And we can put one here. We don't want to have too many that go out of the region. Out of the video clip, I mean, not region. Right there. Oh, and if you press grab and shift, it'll move it more precise. So you can get it, more centered in. And this should be good. It's not too many trackers, not too few. It's good. So now we press all, select all of them, and this, unselect this because that's already, well, actually, let's just make that smaller, and that smaller. And now we can press all, and let's just, from the beginning, track it all. Now, it might take a little bit of time, so I'm just going to pause this footage, and I'll be right back. Okay, so, now that it's all done, let's just save it, and just press Alt-A, and you'll see that everything is being tracked, and press A to deselect. And this looks a little confusing right now, but all that is really doing is it's staying on the marker. And what I showed you before, no, don't render the path, it'll just stay there on the markers. And that actually looks a little bit nicer, but we want to see the path maybe. and it doesn't really matter what you want. You can use whatever you want, I mean. You see that some of them are going out of the scene, and that's mainly because they're just cut out, the trackers. You can't see them anymore. And you don't need to worry about that because these are all very, enough. They're enough. So now what we want to do is we want to split this area by right-clicking and then, basically what I just did. So anyways, press T to get rid of that and go into camera view. And you want, under here in clip, you want to press set as background. So go ahead and do that, and you'll see now that it's all working very nicely. But the cube, the camera itself, is not moving. So just press N right now, and background image, and make that nice and, make it look better, because that does. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to save, and we want to solve the camera motion. But one thing that I can say is camera data, this can be very picky to get right, and if you do not do this, you can get it wrong. So, focal length, optical center, K1, K2. Basically, optical center is the center of the whole clip. So just press center and it'll find that, but it'll change once we do the camera motion. It'll also find the focal length, which is how far the camera is zoomed in. This is not, so it should stay as 24 or around there. It doesn't really matter. If it's maybe like 2 up or 3 up, it will basically, this will just tell it what it really is. So maybe it was zoomed in a little, but we don't know. And if you want to get it really high tech, K1 and K2 will kind of give distortion, get the distortions of light and all that. So we want to just click focal length, optical center, K1 and K2 under refine, because it was originally set to nothing. And keyframe A and keyframe B, that is where you zoom in like a lot. So just minimize this window for a minute and look for a point where there's a big zoom in. So what I'm seeing is maybe track 40, keyframe A. So the start is 40 and the end is 70. So that looks about right. Just drag it back to 40. Big zoom in. And that looks about right. So now that everything is ready, just press camera motion, make sure you save, and it'll start to complete the solution. And you really want a low number. The lower the better. A number that's less than 1 is an excellent solve. And a number that's between 1 and 3 is okay. And a number that is over than 3 is not so good. I would prefer to stay below below 1, because that is the best thing you can get, basically. And it might take a while, not too long. It shouldn't. Basically, what it's doing when it's bundling is it's trying to find that, and that is a very big solve error. So let's see what is going on. Right here, okay, that is big. So what we can do is we can probably track it again by itself and see how much better it gets. Let's just track all these. If you don't track them all at once, it can get a little bit, if you track them all at once, I should say, it can get very jumpy sometimes. So basically, I'm just going to retrack all these, and you don't want to watch me do that, probably. So I'm just going to pause this for a quick minute. Okay, just wait until you see what I got this time. 0.3625. What I did before, I did on purpose, so that you would kind of see what would happen if you weren't careful enough. Because when you track the markers all at once, it's kind of more jumpy. Unless you have a really top-notch video that's super HD. This is HD, but it's not the best that it can be, and I know that. Okay, basically all I did was I retracked everything and I took some stuff out. These 3 points I took out because they were big problems. But if you click on one of these, you can see what that error, that track contributed to. And down here in the camera data, it shows the focal length. It fixed that for us, the width, the optical center, which is now correct, and the lens distortion. And it's all good now. And we should probably save. I learned the hard way that you should always save. But now that you did that, you can, let me show you what to do next. Now, this is not doing anything at all. The camera isn't moving, nothing. It's really just the background. So what we do is we go over to the camera constraints, which is right here, if Blender would work for me, please. I don't know what, oh, whoops, I accidentally clicked on something. But just go over to the camera constraints and add camera solver. And now, you can see that it kind of moves with the scene, with the camera. But the cube is also moving, which means that the camera solution is not correct yet. And there's a very good reason for that. Sure, we have a very small average solve error, but we didn't set the ground and the origin yet. So, right here, a sub window, go over to reconstruction, and let's, okay. Once you're over there, make sure it's still the background. And you can just get rid of that tab right there, and select a few of these. Whoops. Go back to camera. And select 3 of these, and set it as the floor. And that'll automatically put the cube on the floor. You gotta select 3 and kind of make a triangle so that it gets a very good perspective. But it's still not perfect. You can see it's still jumping around a little bit. So we want to select something that's kind of in the center, which would be this probably, and set the origin. So now press Alt-H and it'll be better. Set this as the x-axis, and the scale between here and here would probably be 1.3 meters, and set that as the scale. And it's just huge now. So what we can do is just go into edit mode and scale it down. And what you can see now is that the cube is in the scene, and the camera will follow it. It's pretty cool what this stuff can do. Anyways, now let's see how we're doing on time. 23, okay, that's not bad. We can set up the tracking scene, and it'll basically just give us a plane that will, you know, cast shadows. So press Alt-G and press G, Z, -1. And press Alt-A. And when we render this, you won't see the plane at all. So it'll kind of just cast a shadow. So if I render this image right now, just let it finish up. And let's see how it looks. You see there. It set the shadow, although the shadow is not perfect. See, I brought it down too much, so let's just bring it up to the bottom of the cube. And what we can do is we can press Tab and select these 4. Oops. These 4 points, and press Shift S, cursor to selected, Oh, my bad. Shift S, cursor to selected. And that'll put that at the center of the bottom of the cube. And now we can press this and Shift S, selection to cursor. So now it should render the image fairly nicely. And if you press Control up, you can maximize that window. So now let's just see how this renders. It's compositing everything, and you see a very nice shadow, although the lighting isn't correct yet. And I'm going to teach you how to do that right now. The light is directly above this cube, pretty much, over a little bit. So what we're going to do is, we don't need this window anymore, so we just close that out. Let's see, the camera is, the lamp is projecting it over there. So let's just go to camera. And you could add anything to the scene. You could add fire. Maybe I'll do that as a tutorial. I've already done a fire tutorial, so it'll be pretty cool to kind of add the fire to an actual scene. Okay, so now that that's good, we should actually probably change that to an area light and grab on the x-axis. And let's see how that renders now. And it's kind of messed up. So just forget about that. Don't make that an area light. Make that point back to point again. And it's rendering fairly nicely. And when we pressed set up the tracking scene, it added the plane. But hold on, let me just grab this back over there. It added the plane, but it also did some node setups. First thing you see is ambient occlusion. That'll just light the scene more realistically. So, say the light is over here. You wouldn't be able to see the light if you were looking at the side opposite of right here. You wouldn't see any light, it would be totally pitch black. Ambient occlusion allows light to be reflected off of space. So it'll be more realistic. And it also set up a node, so we can just go to the, hold on, let me see, where's the node editor? And there it is. This node setup is making the shadow cast and the plane that is under the cube be invisible. So that's basically what the node setup is doing. And okay, we can just hide that. And so say, okay, well, let's add something that's kind of cool. Let's add a monkey, I guess. And let's make it just sitting up on there. Rotate on the z-axis. Rotate on the local x. And you can rotate on the local x-axis by pressing R, X, X. And the same thing applies for the z-axis, and so on and so forth. Now, let's see. We can give it any texture we want. We can make it striped. Let's do that. We'll name this monkey just to keep things organized. And press new and press blend. And just press ramp. And set the alpha all the way up. And let's just click on the monkey to see what it'll look like. And you see the farther we drag that up, the farther it'll be darker. So we can make it like that if we wanted. So let's see how that looks, how that renders. Should be cool. You can experiment with all the things. Oh, you see that's kind of invisible, kind of blends in, which is kind of cool. But the reason that it is like that is because it is on the second thing, the this layer. Anything that was on this layer will be counted as like a plane. It'll be invisible and will only receive shadows. So to move it, press M1 and do that. And now if you render it by pressing image, you see that it has a nice crossfade, kind of. And we can also make that smooth, add a subdivision surface, you know, whatever you want, and make it nice. And now if we just render that, it'll look fairly cool, because you can add whatever you want in these scenes. Anything. You could add a monster with 2 eyes. This is how movies like Transformers were made. They're shot in a big city, and effects were made so that buildings would look cracked and all this great stuff. That's cool, but it also takes a lot of work. And this is just the basics of it. I can get a lot more in-depth, which I'll probably do in another tutorial. I can add cracks wherever I want, fire, anything. But this is just the basic for this tutorial. And thanks for watching. I'm going to wrap this up right now. If you want to see something that I've rendered before, I can post it on my website. Just send a request in. If you want to see this rendered, well, we'll see. Maybe I will render it. But I'll post it on YouTube later, not in this video. But thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and bye. That's how to camera track.